Most people believe their home is their biggest asset. I mean, it's the absolute bedrock of the American dream,
That's
right?
completely.
You save up, you buy a house, you pay it off, and you're set. But what if I told you that, according to one of the biggest finance books ever written, your house is actually a liability,
And not just a liability, a huge financial drain.
a massive one?
That is the single most provocative idea in the book we're covering today. And honestly, whenever I bring this up with people, they get genuinely angry. It just flips the script on everything we've been taught.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a monster. We're unpacking Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. And I mean, a monster. This thing has sold 32 million copies.
In 51 languages. It's incredible.
It sat on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 years. Oprah loved it. Will Smith talks about it. For a huge part of the world, this book is basically the Bible of personal finance.
It is. And the reason it has that staying power isn't because it's some, dry textbook. It's because it's a story. It frames money not as math, but as a mindset.
Right, the story of the two dads. This is
Yeah.
the whole narrative device. So before we get into the heavy stuff like why my house is apparently a money pit, let's set the stage. Who are these two dads?
So you have poor dad. This is Robert's biological father.
Mm.
And the irony is he isn't poor, like we'd normally think of it. He's highly educated, a PhD, works for the government, works incredibly hard.
Which sounds like really good advice to most people.
It does. But he really struggles with money his whole life.
Yeah.
His philosophy was the traditional path. Go to school, get good grades, find a safe, secure job.
And his mindset about money itself.
Was basically, I'm not interested in money, or money doesn't matter.
And then you have Rich Dad.
Rich Dad is his best friend Mike's father. He never even finished the 8th grade. But he goes on to become one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii.
And his philosophy was the complete opposite.
Totally. Money is power. He believed you had to take control of it, or it would absolutely control you.
The contrast is so sharp. And the whole mission for this deep dive is to unpack the 6 rules that Rich Dad taught Robert. The goal being to shift from, working for money to making money work for you.
Exactly. And before we even get to the rules, we have to look at the language they used. The source makes a huge deal out of this. Poor Dad would say, I cannot afford it.
Which I say all the time. It feels like a statement of fact.
But Rich Dad argued that saying, I cannot afford it, literally shuts down your brain. It's a full stop. You stop thinking.
Okay.
He insisted on asking, how can I afford it?
So one is a statement and the other is a question. One shuts the door, the other forces you to find a way to pick the lock.
Precisely. It turns a roadblock into a puzzle. Poor Dad says, study hard so you can find a good company to work for.
And Rich Dad says,
Study hard so you can find a good company to buy.
that is a massive shift. It's moving from an employee mindset to an owner mindset. And there's a great story from Robert's childhood that just perfectly illustrates this. I love this, the toothpaste factory.
Oh, this is a classic. So Robert and his friend Mike are kids, maybe 9 years old. They ask Rich Dad how to make money.
And he gives them some vague advice.
Yeah, just use your head. So they take it literally. They start collecting all the used toothpaste tubes from their neighbors.
Right, because back then, the tubes were made of lead.
Exactly, not plastic. So they're in the backyard, melting these lead tubes down in a pot and pouring the molten lead into plaster molds to make nickels.
They were literally forging money.
Yes, counterfeiting. But when Rich Dad finds out, he doesn't just yell at them. He sees the spirit of what they were doing. They were trying to create value, not just wait for an allowance.
And that leads us right into rule number 1.
Yeah.
This is the foundation of the whole thing. The rich do not work for money.
And this is where most people get stuck. Rich Dad calls it the rat race.
We've all heard that term. But let's break down what he actually means by it. It's not just about having a job you dislike, is it?
No, it's a specific cycle, and it's driven by 2 very powerful emotions, fear and desire. Or, as the book calls it, fear and greed.
Okay, unpack that. How do fear and greed run my life?
Well, it starts with fear. Most people are terrified of not being able to pay their bills. That fear is what makes you get up and go to work every day, even if you hate your job.
Okay, so you get the paycheck?
And the fear subsides for a minute, but then desire kicks in.
Right, you've got money, and suddenly you see all the things you can buy with it. A nicer car, a vacation.
A new phone, so
Yeah.
you spend it, and then the money's gone, the fear comes rushing back, and you have to go back to work.
It's a hamster wheel.
It is. And here's the trap. Even if you get a raise, it usually doesn't fix it. Your income goes up, but so does your spending. You just start running faster on the same wheel.
That's pretty depressing. So what's the alternative? Quit our jobs?
No, not at all. The alternative is to master those emotions. Instead of just reacting, I need money now, you step back and use your brain. You ask, is there a better way to do this? Is there something I'm missing?
And that how is where we get into the really controversial stuff. Rule number 2, financial literacy. Specifically, the definition of an asset versus a liability.
This is the absolute core of the book. And you kind of have to unlearn what you might have been taught in school. Kiyosaki simplifies it brutally.
Okay, lay it on us.
Yeah.
What is an asset?
An asset is something that puts money in your pocket.
Simple enough.
Mhm.
And a liability?
Is something that takes money out of your pocket, period.
Okay, hold on. This is where we have to talk about the house. We started the whole deep dive with this. If I buy a house for $500,000 and in 10 years it's worth $800,000, that's a $300,000 profit. How is that not an asset?
I'm glad you pushed back because that is the exact logic of Poor Dad. The problem is you're confusing a potential future profit, what's called capital gains, with what's happening right now, which is cash flow.
Okay, explain the difference.
Think of your bank account like a bathtub. An asset is the faucet, pouring water in. A liability is the drain, letting water out. Now, look at your house month to month. Does it put money in your pocket, or do you take money out to pay the mortgage, the insurance, the taxes, the repairs?
Well, I'm paying out every month.
Exactly. The drain is wide open. It doesn't matter if the value of the bathtub itself is going up on paper. If you lose your job tomorrow, that house becomes a huge problem. It takes cash out of your pocket. So, by his definition,
It's a liability. Wow. That's actually terrifying when you frame it that way.
it is. And he's not saying don't ever buy a house. He's just saying don't call it an asset. An asset would be a rental property where the tenant's rent covers all the expenses and still leaves you with, say, $500 extra each month.
So that $500 is the faucet.
That's the faucet. That's the asset. So the pattern is
Okay.
the poor have expenses, the middle class buys liabilities they think are assets, and the rich,
They buy assets first.
they buy real assets first.
Yeah.
Stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate. They build that column of things that generate cash. And then, once that cash flow is strong enough, they use that money to buy the luxuries.
So they don't buy the Porsche with their salary. They buy it with the dividends from their stock portfolio.
Exactly. They let their money buy their toys.
That leads perfectly into rule number 3, mind your own business. And there's that great story about Ray Kroc, the guy who built McDonald's.
Yeah, fantastic anecdote. Kroc was speaking to some MBA students, and he asked them, what business am I in?
And everyone says hamburgers, obviously.
Of course! They laughed. Ray, you're in the hamburger business. But Kroc said, no, my profession is selling hamburgers. My business is real estate.
Real estate? How?
Think about it. McDonald's owns the land under thousands of the busiest intersections in the world. The franchise pays them rent. Ray Kroc was basically a land baron who used burgers to finance his real estate empire.
So there's a huge distinction between your profession and your business.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Your profession is what you do from 9 to 5 to pay the bills. Your business, in Rich Dad's terms, is your asset column. It's the thing you build on the side.
So minding your own business doesn't mean you have to quit your job tomorrow.
Not at all. It means keep your day job, be a great employee, but start using your spare time and spare cash to build that asset column. Don't just work for a paycheck.
Okay, but here's the snag. As soon as you start making money, whether it's from a job or an asset, you've got a partner waiting to take a huge chunk of it.
The tax man.
Which brings us to rule 4, taxes and the power of corporations.
This is probably the most sophisticated part of the book, but it's so important. It explains why the rich seem to play by different rules. He calls it financial IQ.
The source argues that most people have this Robin Hood fantasy, that taxes take from the rich to give to the poor. But he says the middle class actually pays the most. How does that work?
Because the rich use corporations. Now, people hear corporations and they think of some giant skyscraper.
Right. But it's really just a legal structure, a folder.
That's all it is. And the magic is in how the cash flows. For an employee, the flow is...
Earn money. Pay tax on that money. Spend what's left.
Okay, earn, tax, spend. Got it. For a corporation, the flow is earn money, spend money on legitimate business expenses, pay tax on whatever is left over.
So it's earn, spend, tax.
Yes. They spend pre-tax dollars. It's a massive, massive advantage. It's a legal cheat code, but you have to know the rules of the game to use it.
Okay, so we need assets, we need to mind our business, use corporate structures. But where does the money for all this come from in the first place? Rule 5 is, the rich invent money.
This sounds like magic, but it really goes back to mindset. Poor dad thinks money is a real scarce thing. Rich dad believes money is just an idea. If you can see an opportunity that other people miss, you can create value out of thin air.
The book uses the Alexander Graham Bell story for this.
Right. Bell invents the telephone, but he needs money. He goes to Western Union and offers to sell them the patent for $100,000.
And they basically laughed him out of the room.
They thought it was a toy. They couldn't see the opportunity. But Bell didn't just give up. He went out and created the industry himself. He founded AT&T. The wealth was in his vision.
So inventing money is really about spotting opportunities that others miss.
It's about seeing a rundown house and seeing potential rental income, not just peeling paint. It's having the financial intelligence to see what could be.
But to spot those opportunities, you need skills. Which brings us to the final rule, Rule 6. Work to learn, don't work to earn.
This is my personal favorite. Poor dad was all about job security. Rich dad was all about learning. He believed you should know a little about a lot.
And he says, you are one skill away from great wealth. But what skills are we talking about?
Interestingly, not super specialized technical skills. He says the most important skills are sales and communication.
Ugh, sales. I feel like so many people have a bad reaction to that word. It feels slimy.
It can, but look at it this way. You can have the best idea in the world, but if you can't communicate its value to a customer or an investor or an employee, you'll go broke. Selling is everything.
So he made Robert take jobs he hated just for the experience.
Yes, he made him work in sales at Xerox to learn how to overcome his fear of rejection. The advice is, don't just take a job for the paycheck. Take it for the skills you'll acquire.
Okay, so we have the blueprint. It seems logical.
Mm-hmm.
Buy assets, understand taxes, learn to sell. If it's so simple, why isn't everyone rich?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The source lists 5 major obstacles that trip people up.
We've mentioned fear already, but there's one I find really sneaky. Laziness.
Oh, this one is fascinating. Because we think of laziness as just, sitting on the couch. But Kiyosaki says the most common form of laziness is actually busyness.
Busyness.
Yeah.
But the busiest people I know work 60 hours a week. They are not lazy.
They're hardworking at their job, but they're often too busy to take care of their wealth. I'm too busy to read a book on investing. I'm too busy to look at my finances.
Ouch. So the busyness is an excuse, an avoidance tactic.
Exactly. And Rich Dad says the cure for this kind of laziness is a little bit of greed, by which he means desire. You have to ask, what's in it for me? What would my life be like if I didn't have to work? You need that desire to overcome the inertia of being busy.
Another big one is cynicism.
The chicken little syndrome. The sky is falling. What if the market crashes? The cynic's doubts and fears paralyze them, and they miss every opportunity.
And the last one is arrogance.
Which he defines as ego plus ignorance. It's when you think that what you don't know doesn't matter. It's the fastest way to lose money.
So putting this all together,
Yeah.
what's the takeaway for someone listening to this right now?
I think it means the divide between rich and poor isn't really about the number in your bank account. It's about the philosophy in your mind. It's about realizing that job security might be an illusion and financial freedom is the real goal.
It's a total shift from I work hard for money to how can I build a system where money works for me?
And realizing that action is the only thing that matters. You can listen to this deep dive, but until you actually look at your own finances and identify your assets and liabilities, nothing changes.
The source leaves us with a really provocative thought, comparing 2 book titles.
Yeah. It notes that the famous book is called Think and Grow Rich, not Work Hard and Grow Rich.
That one distinction really sums it all up. Real money is made in the mind.
Absolutely.
So here is our challenge to you. Don't just let this be another thing you listen to. Take one concept, maybe it's the bathtub metaphor. Go look at your finances tonight. Is your drain open? Are you building a faucet?
Start training your mind to see opportunities instead of just obstacles.
If this deep dive sparked an aha moment for you, especially about the house or the taxes, please share this episode with a friend right now. We all know someone who is working incredibly hard but just running on that hamster wheel.
They need to hear this.
They do. And don't forget to subscribe to the deep dive so you never miss a shortcut to being well informed. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye, everyone.